A lot of people focus on and discuss individual action as a reaction to political and social problems. I discussed this a little bit in my Marxism and mental health video. Most of the time, this is actually to distract people from a lack of action on the part of those with the most power. The Irish government's mental health reform campaign, #EndTheStigma, focused on just opening up to your friends and being more accepting of mental health conversations. And while that's a great idea, it conveniently doesn't actually include any additional health services. In a country where the health services website literally tells you to call Samaritans if you need urgent help because they won't provide that. And it's particularly prevalent, this attitude, in discussions of the environment. During the Californian drought, people were told to not wash their cars, to take showers instead of baths, when overuse of water is overwhelmingly by factories and large farms growing climate-inappropriate crops, not households. Individual ethical choices matter, of course they do, but political change happens through mass action. I have no problem with people living in a way that they find least harmful, but there is an arrogance in assuming that everyone else is too lazy or too unwilling to change to adopt these ethical practices. And this is why I can't take activists who pat themselves on the back for how they've opted out of capitalism or society or whatever seriously at all. Just because you could pick up your toys and leave doesn't mean everyone can, and it certainly doesn't solve problems you left behind. That's also why, despite a lifelong interest in environmental causes, most environmental activists make me want to hit myself over the head with a solar panel. Let's not talk about the connections between poverty and the environment. Let's not talk about colonialism. No, let's just ramp up some consumerism for green products and spread misinformation about so-called genetically modified organisms. And before anyone accuses me of defending Monsanto and their friends, the problem there is not GMOs, it's unregulated, globalized corporatism. Miriam over on her channel Zentoro has a great video about environmental racism as it relates to the Flint water crisis, and you should watch that. In particular, lately I've been finding fault with this narrative of self-sufficiency. I sat in the library the other day with a stack this high of books claiming to make your home energy self-sufficient or to start that off-the-grid homestead farm. I was just hoping to scale down some ideas for a home rainwater collection system, but these authors have no interest in being scaled down. They don't want to appeal to a majority of people trying to make a small difference. They want to appeal to a minority of people with a fair trade hemp sack full of disposable income. Even the shoestring budget book called for investments of thousands of dollars. Not only that, but they simultaneously call on you to remove yourself to the countryside while disrespecting the people who already live there. They have no interest in the problems facing rural communities. One book went so far as to say rural people wouldn't like you if you seemed too sophisticated. And when I showed a friend of mine who was raised in rural farming that quote, she wasn't surprised at all. Because she'd seen these people come down from the cities and buy their custom-built farms and their expensively renovated turn-of-the-century farmhouses and live behind tall gates and outside of the rest of the community. Self-sufficiency is a narrative that has no space for people who rely on the establishment of accessible infrastructure. If you need to access medical services regularly, you don't get to live off the grid. If you're living paycheck to paycheck, you don't get to invest in micro-generation power sources. Self-sufficiency is the ultimate opt-out. It is about you and no one else. I am interested in supporting the farms and farmers who surround and feed our cities, but I am not interested in people who have spent most of their lives waiting less than 10 minutes for a bus to turn around and tell me that they're saving the planet by investing their considerable savings in a solar-powered house and half a dozen chickens.